right, check one, check two. This is it. Welcome to the Cannabis Coffee Hour. I'm your host, Rob Cantrell. I have an exciting guest and an exciting episode. It's 11 a.m. This guy's a filmmaker, a writer, a podcaster, a comedian. He's written films. He's been on Doug Love's movies. He tours. Let's give it up for Brandon Collins, everybody.
Hey, everybody. How y'all doing? That was a great intro. So much energy.
Yeah.
Being so high.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Thank you, Brandon, and thank you for putting up with it. I know it's a lot of energy.
Oh no, it's like I'm on a sativa right now, so like my head's just like, yo, this is feeling we're off to the races right now. Yeah. And so you're matching the energy in my head. Yeah,
you know, as you could tell, I do it very DIY punk rock style here at the Cannabis Coffee Hour CCH podcast. But I do like to be official, and you know what term I love is bookend.
Oh, okay.
Don't you love like a podcast? That's why I like to do a cheesy ending, and I'll give it at the end a good peace and love. Okay. And then it's done for 45 minutes.
Yeah, we have like something like that on Media Podcast. We're like, we're always like peace or love you, like we will hold you, things like that. But I always want to be the ballsy podcast that just stops. Yeah. Every time you're like in mid sentence, just stops.
Just pull the plug.
Yeah, like a Sopranos finale.
Yes.
Oh shit! Did they edit this wrong? It's like, nope. It just the episode's over.
Yeah, that is kind of the artsy way of doing it. And I think, with podcasts, you could do it a little bit both ways. Now, you have a podcast, and I've seen clips of it, and you do it with another cat, and it's about movies a lot, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about your podcast and the name and where people can listen to it.
Yeah, it's called Medium Popcorn, and we are comedians that review movies. But we are like officially film critics because we got Rotten Tomatoes accredited a few years ago.
Oh, dope.
So like all of our episodes when we review movies, it gets added to Tomato Meter as like an official rating and stuff like that. It's pretty wild. Like we get to upload the reviews ourselves now, but for 2 years we had a Rotten Tomatoes like designated like transcriber who would have to listen to our episodes of madness and then like succinctly break it down into like 2 sentences.
Oh wow.
And there'd be times I felt so bad for this guy. He would email me like direct quotes and be like, guys, like because we talk about a lot of stuff and the movie, of course, but sometimes we say some wild things.
I know.
Like,
and through dictation, you don't even know your own self until you read your own self.
Yeah, just because sometimes we would be high on that podcast, and so we'd be like, just non sequiturs or just really weird things. Like I remember one time we were talking about it. I was so high, and we were drinking too.
Right.
And I just said randomly, niggas get peanuts on Sunday. And then everyone's like, what? And then the guy from Rotten Tomatoes was like, what does it even mean? I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just, we're having fun.
Yeah, it just sounded right in the moment. And then when you're talking shit, that's the thing about podcasts and getting official.
Yep.
And when you get, Rotten Tomatoes official, that's a stamp. You're playing. You have a certain audience you're playing.
Yeah,
to.
and it gets kind of dicey sometimes. Like we reviewed Elvis.
Yes.
And my co-host is very big on like being sure that we're being true to the artist that like Elvis was inspired quote unquote by, and so Elvis fans did not like that. They did not like that. They did not like us talking about young Priscilla and him, and so they were basically like attacking us like on social media, on our YouTube page, got bombarded. They were like it got kind of crazy, and then that's when we started getting some death threats.
Yeah, because it gets racist. Yeah.
So
and challenging Elvis is that's a fan base that's been going on for like 100 years.
Can you guess the other movie that we gave a rating for? I loved it. My co-host did not, but he gave a negative rating to it, and we started getting death threats.
What?
Paddington 2. Paddington 2, like if y'all don't know, like had like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was like a record.
Yes.
Right? And my co-host Justin, we just watched that at a bad time for him emotionally, and so he just did not have the bandwidth, I think, to really appreciate how silly and just lighthearted it was.
Yeah.
And so he like brought down the rating for it, and people lost their minds.
Yeah. Paddington can hit different. And different emotions in your life.
Did you see Paddington 2 though?
I saw the first one. and I had a Paddington when I was little that I loved. I used to roll. That was my number one bear. Was Paddington. I had I used to go on the bus, the DC public bus, with a big ass Paddington in the 70s by myself.
Did he like marmalade sandwiches?
Yeah, always ate marmalade. We were all over marmalade and Roy Rogers chicken and everything else, and McDonald's 70s McDonald's hamburgers, the little ones with the little pickles. No, but that's wild. To go back to the Elvis thing, that film was tricky and wild. And thinking about music is wild. I just even the Puff Daddy thing, how powerful music is. Does it trip you out how much money is involved with music? Like these guys selling their whole rights, their catalogs for like $50 million, like $500 million.
Well, I think that makes sense in today's climate. That's the thing is like, I think if you have good representation that's willing to be honest with you about the industry.
Yes.
I think, a Justin Bieber or whoever, like being told like, hey, like, especially if you're not like into performing and like everything like you used to be.
Yes.
Selling the music rights and stuff where you can still maybe get something a year, like it's not the worst, especially in today's climate. Like I've always been fascinated.
I think it's the best. I've been sitting here like, why am I doing stand up? I need to be creating music because when it gets tangible, it can go live on forever and ever and ever.
That's what's so fascinating about the entertainment industry. And like I've always been
fascinating.
I've been fascinated by the music industry and the business side of it since the 90s, because I've never seen an industry, and mind you, everything that the music industry went through is what film and TV are going through now. It's like so crazy how history repeats itself, and all you have to do is just like look at certain facets to see what could be happening. So the music industry, records, vinyl, tape, cassette tape, CD, and then the MP3 was coming, and the music industry had an opportunity to get like greatly involved in that, the offset. So they're artists and they can make money still off of singles and everything.
Yeah, when they went digital. They botched it with Napster and tried to hang on to the old physical copy because that type of hard money is really good, but it wasn't the way of the future. Electric money is what's happening in music right now. Selling out of your trunk and selling the hard copies, that is hardcore cash. To go like an album, $17 vinyl, and then going diamond on one of those bad boys, that's a lot of like cash.
It is, but unfortunately, there's no technology to support that stuff anymore.
I know.
Like, there's still kids in Times Square that are hustling CDs, and I'm like, oh, you're just going up to tours that don't know any better. Like, no one has a CD player.
Or somebody just down on their luck that they're just working off of a CD player right now, and they don't have the best taste of music. But I just got into vinyl again. I got a record player, and then I got these little speakers that weren't that expensive. That were Bluetooth, and so I just been getting back into vinyl. And
I have a lot of vinyl.
I
have a lot of vinyl. Well, I don't collect, but I got really into vinyl after I inherited my grandparents' record collection.
Oh wow!
And I'm talking like old Motown. Like Isley Brothers, like.
And you're from Michigan.
Yeah, like.
Yeah, I mean, my mom's from Lansing. Yeah, my whole family's from Michigan. We used to go to Lake Michigan, Stony Lake.
Yeah.
Which is right. If the glove's right here, it's right here, like near Ann Arbor. I know all about Ann Arbor, which is a cool town where you're from. Right?
Yes, yeah. And did you ever go like Mackinac Island and stuff like that?
Yeah, I love Mackinac. Yeah. Mackinac Island is a place where you don't have a car. It was you can go there and it's like horses and it's a beautiful hotel and it's amazing. Yeah, I got mad love for Michigan.
Good fudge.
Yeah, good fudge. I have a dream of like getting rich and going just north of Michigan and becoming a gnome and just like growing my beard out and growing like giant mushrooms out on the lawn and like having a pack of llamas. Up there.
I hate llamas.
And have a sauna. Well, you can have a dog. Do you have a cat? Or you don't like animals?
I have a cat. Shout out to Luna.
Shout out to Millie. Shout out to Luna. I love my cat. How long have you had your cat?
We've had her for 2 years, but she's been in the family for 6.
Oh wow.
We borrowed her from my mother-in-law. Because we had we came back from LA after 2 years in our house we had a mouse problem. We had a mouse.
Holy.
And so we're like, hey, can we use your cat?
I got a cat.
And then she just stayed. Because I mean, to be fair, she was going from a basement apartment to a 3-story house.
Oh,
so
wow.
She's just like, this is paradise. So
and I get to hunt.
It would have been hard for her to leave. And so we just had her ever since, and she's our baby.
and no mice. That's
No,
that's
we haven't
the
had
thing.
one since.
Yeah, I feel bad for people that don't like cats because you can get an exterminator and all that stuff, but those mice will always come back. There's always some crumbs around.
Yeah.
I don't care how clean you are. There's always something. And but a cat, they're not going. Yeah, they stop coming when the cat's around.
Yep. And then cats are when they're affectionate towards you, it's awesome.
Oh, it's the best.
It's the best. But then like when they're like, I don't care for you, just feed me.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's also kind of great too, because
yeah.
I got stuff to do.
They're very zen. They very zen, and they're very in the moment, and they're very like who they are. Like sometimes I stare at my cat and I'm like, oh, you're just a cat. They're just being a cat. They're just chilling out, and they want the back of their ears scrubbed and all that. Yeah, lately I've been putting my cat. She comes right on my chest and will purr right onto my heart.
Yep.
Like, and I'll just lay back and be like, oh, and I know it's good for me too. I'm like, because I was born in '72, man. I'm trying to eat lean and mean and keep the heart going, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this cat purring exercise.
The cat does that to my wife a lot.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, then when she wants extra body heat, she'll like come to my space.
Yes.
And she also likes my scent. So anytime I get off the couch and I walk over to do anything, even if it's for 10 seconds, I turn back around, Luna's in my spot. She just loves like filling in my
She
space.
loves your warmth. Yeah,
Yeah,
as soon as you break
it's
out,
insane.
she's all over your warmth, and she's the side boyfriend. Yeah. But tell me, we were talking before the podcast about music, and I was just fascinated about like people selling their catalogs and like there's just so much. Like growing up, it's like music is in the background, but now as I've gotten older, and I don't know if it's just my brain focusing on it, it's more like, oh my God, this is a huge part of our culture, and a part of our history, and a part of being a human being is listening and processing music. And being from Motown, like your parents' records, like that just fascinates. You must have got the best funk and soul.
I mean, I got some pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
It's like James Brown, even like old Richard Pryor albums and stuff like that.
Oh,
so
some of the best.
some really good vinyl. Some really good vinyl. But I already had some of my own too. Like growing up, my grandparents they would drive. So they were living in Ypsilanti, but my grandfather still worked in Hamtramck at the General Motors plant, and I would stay with them. So like I would have to drive with them really early in the morning, like at 3 a.m. to Detroit and back. And my nana would play like Frankie Valli and Four Seasons and the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack. Yeah. So I got like original like prints of like those albums, like from like record stores around New York City. So I guess in a way I am a collector.
Yes.
Yeah, because like those songs are just like nostalgic for me, and sitting in the front, passenger seat of my nana, like driving at 5 a.m. back. Yeah, it was nice.
Yes.
Very, very calming and relaxing.
I was talking about it on stage, but how cool is singing in soprano? If you sing in soprano, that's how Prince was so funky. All his funkiest tunes were in soprano, and people are too cool now; they don't even know. But if you sing like this, and you go to the store.
I mean, Bee Gees.
The Bee Gees. It's
Bee Gees
always
best
funky.
of all time.
Yeah, it's always funky.
Don't fuck it up, Ridley Scott.
Yeah. Ridley Scott, is he the one?
He's
new
doing a
one?
biopic.
Yeah, biopic. I mean, Pharrell knows the secret. There's a couple people that know the secret that singing in falsetto will always make your tune funky and cool, and especially if it's done really well.
Yeah.
Beck did it in a couple albums that I really like, and
okay. I never really got into Beck.
Really?
Yeah,
not even the beats. Like you never heard anything where you were like, "Oh man, this is an obtuse beat."
Nothing that comes to mind. But Beck did a few songs with Gorillaz, right?
Yeah.
I think that's where I kind of was like, okay, I kind of like this. I think he did one or two with Moby that I kind of liked. And so, but like Beck albums, I just like never could listen to a whole album and be like, I enjoyed that.
Yes.
Front to back. But it's also hard to like find albums that you enjoy front to back anymore. It's been a long time.
Yeah, I mean, he spun off into like super hipster phase, and especially like it's almost like Weezer, like you can really nerd out with his stuff. Yeah. But he has a couple bangers. Loser is a great song, and that's like his number one like top 40 hit. But then he had this album called Midnight Midnight Vultures.
I remember that album.
Yeah, that one is like very dance, electric synths, a lot of the Sopranos. And it was more of his funkier album, and it's just great. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It takes a lot of chances,
Okay.
and yeah, you just don't find like pop level popularity in somebody being an artist as much,
Yeah.
or art. I don't know. Maybe I'm too old to understand.
No, no, I think you're right. I think for me, um, I just for some reason like I just never connected with like Beck. What other artists would you put in that like category? Like a Radiohead?
Yeah, Radiohead.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of that alternative.
Because I'm
rock.
almost thinking Incubus, but I kind of liked Incubus, so it's like it's every.
I wish you were here. Just take your shirt off, dude, and you just sing. I wish you were here. Just flex, dude. On the beach. No, that Incubus had a couple good jams.
Yeah. False. I think of Sopranos. Who else?
Yeah,
D'Angelo.
Yeah, definitely D'Angelo. Just that.
But he has a huge range, though. That's the thing with him.
Yeah,
Like incredible.
yeah. You can
Voodoo's
talk-
a great album. That's a great album.
Which one?
Voodoo.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, it's,
that one. Yeah. He never topped it. Is the problem, and he keeps on trying. I'm sure
He's
there's
not
one
trying.
coming out.
He gets pressure to try.
Yeah.
Like Questlove is on his ass all the time. Like
That's
Questlove,
who number
he's-
one I see.
Questlove is very upfront about like D'Angelo because he used to make music because I like bother him.
Yes.
Like D'Angelo's. I think what would be cool if like Voodoo being his last album. It's like Lauryn Hill, like with Miseducation. I think she's like, I'm not gonna make another album, y'all. Like, just let it be.
Let it be. I'm living my life. There comes a part where you grow so far away from the art that you can perform it, but to like recreate it and get in that zone, it's yeah.
Well, I think people are also like, as artists, we're performers, we're writers, like being intimidated. Like, let's say you have a huge hit, like considered one of the best of all time in like your category of work, right?
Yes.
How do you follow that up?
I know.
It's like Steven Spielberg making Jaws. Like the fact that he was able to make so many classics after that makes him the GOAT.
Yes.
Because Jaws, just the work that he had to do to get that to the finish line, there's a great documentary about it.
Wow.
And the fact that he was like, okay, I'll try this again and top it. Like, insane, dude. So I can see why people would be like, yeah, I'm not going to do another one.
Yeah.
I kind of appreciate
it takes
that.
a lot, and you have to go like, especially with comedy and even in all art forms and filmmaking, there is a gear that is like, it's not good for family and friends. Like you have to like go that hard in the paint and like push it. And I think high-end directors, but him, I think it's out of love. Like he really just loves doing it.
Talking about Spielberg?
Yeah, Spielberg.
Yeah.
And I think, and once you have success, the lane opens up and you can run.
I was going to say,
that's the number one thing I've learned with show business. It's not that they don't like you. It's just like if you have success, you get more opportunities to make other shit for a minute.
Yeah, and I do think that sophomore effort though has to be at the level or exceed it.
Yes.
In order for you to be undeniable and to be able to take the risks that like a Spielberg or like, a really great artist who like releases 2 banger albums back to back. You know what I mean? Like I think once you do that, if the third one is just good, people are still fine. Even if it's a misfire, people will still give you another chance for a comeback. Like it's incredible. Like if you're able to get over that sophomore slump, like think about the people that were able to do that. Like movies, television, music.
But it gets scary what I was thinking about was it gets scary when it is that successful, that it's like you're talking about pop mainstream success, which is literally like lightning in a bottle. And if for a Star Wars to happen or something like that to happen, it's almost like the timing of everything. Yeah. And to keep it going. But when it is, then it goes back to what you were talking with D'Angelo, like it would be nice if you just need to go in there and just do a simple soul album with a Hammond organ and a good drummer that's on beat, and you could knock it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the bare essence is what people really want right now.
Yeah, but I guess it's all dependent on like where your mind state is, right? When you're making the art, right? Like, because things, from the books I've read about people who are ultra successful, fame changes your brain chemistry. It changes your world, right?
Yeah.
And that could change your ability to have your creative outlet. Like I we know comedians are incredibly famous, right? And you see how they're living their lives now, and I'm like, oh, I wouldn't be able to create at this level if I were under that kind of pressure or that kind of microscope. I don't think, and so, sometimes I have to like think about that when I'm listening to a new album from like one of my favorite artists, and just try to take into context what have they been going through, where maybe I'm not connecting with that in this moment with this music or this film or what have you.
Yeah. Life is hard. People are going through it. So you're lucky when the stars align and you get like a massive. That's why I'm like, don't take it for granted, like a Lauryn Hill or like those albums. The same thing with Guns N' Roses, like, or even Thriller. It's just like it's hard to. It's almost an impossible amount of pressure that could crush you if you really thought about it.
I listened to Thriller the other day, front to back, and that's incredible. Like, have you ever heard Quincy Jones talking about making that album?
Yes,
it's insane. Like he's like all the like you said, lightning in a bottle. All these incredible things came together.
And that's Quincy Jones goes back to like the 40s and 50s of jazz music, like, and he's producing and making music like with all these super jazz legends, and then goes into production with Motown, and then he like does all this rock and roll, does like film.
Fresh
and by the
Prince of
time
Bel-Air,
he gets
everything,
to Michael, he's just at full musical power. I don't know if there's anybody on the earth that knows more about music than he does.
Yeah, that's true. Especially hearing the music, knowing what every song needs to be successful, knowing what the artist needs to be successful, because that's a big thing too.
Yeah.
People
knowing
loved
what the
working with
audience
him.
is, how it's going to play, and that's the thing about that Thriller album, and with like Quincy's production, like I have done a couple albums musically, and mixing and mastering is like 50% of the gig. So if you know that science, and you're like, okay, I'm only going to fuck with the best people that know how to mix and master. I'm going to get the best hi-hat on the best fucking mics. And that's what, that's what the big stakes those guys were playing. That's what I kind of miss about the big label music production. I don't know if it'll ever be that fine-tuned.
No, obviously this artist is very, very problematic and troubled. But the last album I could think of where like it's like I'm gonna bring the best of the best in music that I fuck with to create my magnum opus. And to me, that is Kanye for My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. He brought Bon Iver. He brought all these incredible artists to Hawaii to create this album, which was after the Taylor Swift controversy. Beyonce the best video of all time. Mos Def told him like, you need to leave the country, and he went. And I think in my fandom at the time of Kanye, that was his best album.
Yeah.
My
Dark Twisted Fantasy. Yeah. I'm not a super Kanye head. Like I know a couple jams. Yeah. I respect the beat making by Awesome. And the flow is good.
It's good.
It's not like the best rapper flow of all time, but his attitude and funny, like when he was funny, that was awesome.
I'm very sentimental.
But the ego, it's just like all of the artists are great artists, and it's hard for me to judge because I'm in the game. So I know it's like...
Yeah, but even from like Late Registration, I was like, this guy is very arrogant. I mean, he had to fight to get to where he was for College Dropout. But College Dropout, it sounds dramatic, but College Dropout in comedy literally saved my life.
Yes.
Senior year in high school back in Ann Arbor was really, really tough for me.
Yes.
And my comedy was my outlet. I was doing sketch and stand-up comedy, and then the College Dropout was the first album I heard in hip hop and rap where I felt heard, where I felt like I connected with someone, actually like behind the lyrics. You know what I mean? And this is a genre where identity-wise I've been struggling with for a long time because I'm a black kid, but I'm also being raised in the suburbs by black Republicans, and I just never connect. Like I could appreciate hip hop and rap.
Yeah.
I could appreciate the artistry. I loved Andre 3000 growing up. I loved like Biggie, Eminem. I loved that stuff growing up, but like I never felt like I could be in the hip hop community. Like I could be a member of that
You
authentically.
grew up in the early '90s. Like my first concert was Houdini. I saw Houdini. I saw the very first Fresh Fest in Roanoke, Virginia in 1983. I was 12 years old and I was a break dancer and I was in this little rednecky town in
That's
Southern Virginia.
awesome. Okay.
And the first concert, my mom drove me and let me go in myself. I had a full Fila suit. Was Houdini, Run DMC on their second album.
Oh, wow.
I'm 12. They're 19 years old.
Yeah.
In a full arena.
That's
then
incredible.
the headliners, the Fat Boys.
Oh, shit.
300-pound dudes in gold satin.
That's
This is before
insane.
Disorderlies. They were cooler
That's
than
insane.
Run DMC. You don't even know. Like every song
is
was
so
about
wild.
cheeseburgers and pizza. And when you're 12 years old, you're fucking loving. That's the only thing is that
Yeah.
I saw hip hop before it went violent and coke.
Mm.
Like cocaine and violence, which is two of the best things to write about and to grab an audience. But there was a point, like I did see the innocence of hip hop.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah,
at
Sugar
my
Hill
age,
Gang.
I'm not intimidated, or I wasn't ever on Eminem's dick. I never was on Kanye's dick. Like I saw the real deal,
Yeah.
Holyfield. Not to diss on these. If I ran into you, much respect, not meaning to hurt your feelings. But it's just being this age.
Yes, for sure.
And what you're saying, yeah, there was like a disconnect. That was the only thing I would say about the amount of violence, and to feed that much violence into the music, and it was awesome and
Yep.
fun. It was a lot like drinking Jolt Cola. You know,
Yeah.
there is like a caffeine buzz, and that's what Kanye was kind of an artist, like what we were talking about earlier.
Yep.
He was the dude that was like, no, this shit's if you're doing everything that everybody else is doing,
Yep.
you're corny and played out from an
Yeah.
artist.
Well, he was also just like, like talking about going to college and like,
Yeah.
like having to like pass tests and like stuff like that. Like
Having
you
a
know,
nice shirt on,
Yeah,
talking to
exactly,
a girl,
like-
playing at a cool beat.
I loved it. Yeah, I really connected with that because at the time I was really into like Third Eye Blind, John Mayer,
Yeah.
Bee Gees. Like I knew all of Bee Gees' discography because that's how I was raised. So I was the black kid that knew disco music, and they're like, why do you know who Barry Gibbs is? And so like I was very eclectic in my music tastes. But like if you made me like categorize my top genres, hip hop and rap would have been like towards the bottom.
Yes.
Because I just didn't have anything to really connect with. Like, and there'd be songs I loved, but I never connected with them on an emotional level.
Yeah.
And there were some songs on the College Dropout where I'm like,
You never break
man.
danced. Yeah, you never. I was in a break. Like that's how
That's
I connected
wild.
to it. Like connected to it at like 12, and like I'm the same age. I was born in '72. I'm the exact same age as hip hop. Like I remember before it and all of it. But I get what you're saying, and but growing up in Michigan, that's what's trippy too. That
Yep.
it is kind of blue collar, but there is an artist like. There's like so many musicians, and then there's actually great comedy and sketch because you're so near Second City. Like Key and
Yeah.
Peele, right? Isn't one of those dudes from East?
Yeah, I think Keegan.
Yeah, Keegan's
Keegan,
from Michigan,
Yeah.
and like there's just really funny Midwest people.
I got very fortunate because I was raised in Ann Arbor, Michigan. It's like
Yes.
this, upper class suburban town.
Yeah.
We were in a lower tier of that, but I was able to go like be a part of the education system. So there's a lot of funding.
Yeah.
And I went to community high school, which is like kind of like the charter alternative school, but I had access to Pioneer High School, which is this huge mega high school. And they had a huge theater budget, which allowed them to hire a local comedian to teach high school kids sketch and stand-up comedy.
Oh my God.
And so basically I ended up joining like a SNL-esque group in high school.
in high school, you
in
were
high
writing
school. So
sketches.
that's what I learned, like how to like produce a show and like things like that. We got so popular. So my junior year, I'm actually going to write a feature about this.
Yeah.
Right, I have a treatment and everything. So junior year was the year that 8 Mile came out.
Yes.
Biggest movie in Michigan. It was like the fucking. It was like the Super Bowl times
It
10.
was Star Wars.
It was
Yeah,
insane.
yeah.
And so we made it was our sixth show. We called it 6 Mile, and I made a parody poster of the 8 Mile poster. Right, we sold out. Like it was the biggest show like in the town.
It was a live act. Were you on stage or
We
you
were on
shot
stage.
it?
We were on stage, but
Oh
we
my
had video
God,
sketches.
6 Mile.
But we
I
had
never-
video sketches. We did a video sketch of the opening of 8 Mile. We
Oh,
did.
shit.
They Les Mis had been the school musical that fall, so we did a parody of that. Then we did video parodies throughout the show of Making the Band, a Punt, and then we did live sketches and stand up.
Oh my
and
God,
we
that's
became
so
the most
cool.
popular kids in town overnight, and like it was huge to our egos. The adult supervisor, again, a local comedian, for some reason was like, I love this. And he's like, no one's writing sketches for the next show. We're not doing stand up. we're just doing a huge comedy play that I wrote over the weekend. And Rob, we're stand-up comics. We bomb for maybe sometimes if we're having bad sets, we bomb 10, 15, sometimes 30 minutes.
Sometimes.
Nothing will ever scare me as much as bombing for an hour and a half on stage with your sketch comedy group.
Oh,
Like, it will never be that traumatic.
that's bad.
It was so bad. We bombed for an hour and a half straight to the point where we all quit. And then we created our own group. And that's where I got my experience, like, producing my own shows. Because we were like, that's insane. Like, why would you do that to us?
That's insane. No, because you're so lucky. I'll say this because everybody rags on SNL, but I came from San Francisco, which was like, I started in '99, and it was like all the alternative guys, like Patton just left, and I was a little bit hacky, and you couldn't do hacky shit there.
Yeah.
And it was like the smartest of the smart, which I loved, and it made me a much better comedian. And then they had sketch group. They had great sketch group. One was called The Fresh Robots with Al Madrigal and this other guy, Mike Spiegelman, and a couple other guys. But they would do sketch, and I would see them crank out weeks. And then I saw other sketch groups. And then I came to New York, and I would run into the UCB. Seeing a sketch, like a live sketch, like it, 50% of the time, it's gonna bomb hard. Like you're lucky if you get kind of laughs out of a sketch. Like you guys lucked out with the 8 Mile. Like a parody's always a good laugh and a good thing.
We started
but
with
regularly,
a huge pop.
it is like it's harder than stand-up to execute 5 good sketches that actually kill properly. That is like so fucking hard. Every week. That's why I'm like with SNL. Like I saw sketch groups that were around for 7 years that took years to build like a show that had laughs all the way through. Like
and we had like a month and a half. We had a month and a half in high school, so we had time to.
You guys were set up for death.
We had time to fine tune it, and that's what was so odd about the director just taking it over and being like, "I wrote the whole thing." And then here's another thing. Instead of doing auditions, they just started letting anyone in because they got dues. The school. Yeah. We found out later on, like years later, that like the theater director, like in charge of all the budgeting, was actually like siphoning stuff. Like but like happens. He was charging dues for people to be a part of it. So then they were just like open the doors. It became a whole shady thing. But we also had really unfunny people now in the group. Yeah. And so that just made things worse. But I would never, like, I love that experience. It gave me my bones in comedy. And there's nothing like bombing. There's nothing like bombing in front of like your new girlfriend in high school and her friends and like potential other like partners and things like that in the audience. Like, because everyone's like, oh my gosh, the follow up to their last show, they killed it. And it was so bad.
Oh shit!
And you can't stop it because like you're like I can't quit during the show because
I don't think people
I have
realize.
A character. I can't just leave.
You can't leave. And even seeing like a 3-minute sketch to bomb, it feels like a year. To do an hour and a half and to teenagers with no attention span whatsoever, it's death. Yeah, that was You're lucky you're back into comedy,
dude. And it was all commentary like reality TV, and they're like. It was so bad, dude. I'm like getting sweats thinking about it. Like it just was so uncomfortable. And I remember like my friend Sean, like he like lost his mind. Like he was furious afterwards.
Yeah, he built his whole ego on top of this thing.
Well, yeah, but we all
and you're thinking like I'm gonna make money. I'm gonna be on Saturday Night Live next month.
No, after that performance, that show, it's like, oh no, I need to hide from comedy.
Oh shit,
it was bad. And like we didn't even get to do the things that we did best. Which is write and perform comedy. Like it was just we were just performers. It was like we were monkeys, and I'm like, that's not the success of this group, though.
Yeah, so acting's a whole other thing than comedy. Like acting in a play or acting in a movie. Like people that don't do comedy don't understand that it's like it's just 2 different gears.
Yep.
And I respect acting. I want to do more acting. I respect it. Yeah. But as a guy that's done both, it's 2 different emotional gears I've found and 2 different learning curves that are
Yeah, it's a lot.
Comedy's all about, me, funny, now, go. And that's what you should do. But acting's all about chilling.
Yeah, it's a different mode you have to get into. And that's why I appreciate like people like Ben Affleck who are able to like act and direct. You're like, you know how many, like, your brain has to be firing all cylinders. And you probably have ADHD in order to do that successfully.
Yeah. Yeah, people rag on show business people as being ego-y and it doesn't matter. But high-end directors are some of the smartest people you'll ever it's almost like you're going to, as I always say, like making films is like going to war.
Yeah.
I saw Neil Brennan said it was like going to war against time.
Ooh, that's yeah.
You're literally like, okay, like for this podcast, I need, Brendan, I need 45 to an hour of good content music, and we're doing it about music and your comedy career. It's fascinating. And your parents were Republicans, which is also fascinating.
My mom's family, yeah. Like I was raised a single mother, and so only child, and so like I didn't really have anyone to like ask, like, hey, they're like saying and doing weird stuff. Like there's a picture of my grandparents and my mom with the Reagans, at the Republican convention, in '88. Like, yeah, it's pretty, it's pretty wild.
When you're the king, my dad was a hardcore Democrat, from the South. And he was from Virginia. My grandfather from a town of like 500. My grandfather worked in coal mines when he was a child.
Wow.
But he was like a hardcore Democrat. And he was like, but he passed away when I was young. And so I always say, like, I always had kind of a leaning towards Democrats that's built in. And I think that's with a lot of people. That's why the political... like when people are so diverse, sometimes I'm like, oh, it's just their parents were Republicans or their parents were Catholic, their parents are Jewish. It's usually whatever you get handed and you're either rebelling against that or Did you rebel against it or you voted for Obama? Well, how did you?
It never really played out that much because actually, like my family was pretty low key about it.
Yeah.
Like, because
Ann Arbor's just don't talk about this shit.
Ann Arbor's a pretty liberal town, right?
Yeah,
so it's like they were kind of low key. My mom was part of like the college Republicans at the University of Michigan, though, so she was pretty vocal about it. But like I remember when Clinton won in 94 or 92?
Yes,
92. I remember my mom losing her shit. That's like the closest I ever got to like talking about politics. I know she was happy when Bush won in 2000.
Yes.
But when Obama ran, that was the first time my family was like, I mean, we can't not vote for him. And, so that's when they kind of started voting Democratic. My mom actually started like leaning more Democratic as she like learned that, the way that Republicans saw black people wasn't, the way that she thought that they did.
Yes.
Like they don't treat everyone like a Colin Powell. You know what I mean? And so she started becoming like more Democratic in her views and stuff like that. And they both voted for Hillary.
Yes.
In 2016. My papa more because, he's like, I would vote for Trump, but he don't pay his taxes. So that's the reason why he flipped. And then, they've been voting Democratic, since Obama.
Michigan is, my mom's from Michigan, and I think her parents were Republican, but she was super liberal. But when she would go home, like, people were Republican up there. Like, but it wasn't as hardcore. Like in D.C., everybody knows politics because it's so close to the source. Like you're just in D.C., so everybody talks about the shit all the time. Even the East Coast, New York, I think. But in the Midwest, they don't talk politics like it's not on the forefront all the time.
I guess last time I was in Michigan, which was in August, it was talked about like everywhere.
Yeah, now it's gotten,
but that might just be because of circumstances.
I mean, once the rights for women and abortion and that's all. And then Trump, I never respected Trump. Just because I'm in show business.
Yeah.
As I said, some of the smartest directors, but also the biggest egos in the world.
I mean, obviously I hate him because he's a vile, racist person, piece of shit. But I also hate him because he took away one of my favorite seasons of reality TV, which is The Celebrity Apprentice with Lil Jon, John Rich, Meatloaf, Martin McGrath, and Gary Busey. Oh, wow. Because Gary Busey was so out of control in that season. And like, it just is some of the funniest things you'll ever see on reality TV. But now you can't rewatch it because
he pulled it.
It's surrounded by Trump. It's like, I can't enjoy it now.
Can't enjoy it now. But you liked all the B-level stars losing. And Little
John losing his shit on the Gary Busey is hilarious. In a boardroom.
What goes down? Because Little John's fascinating because he's a lot smarter than you think.
Yes,
like he was into all this punk rock, like all this underground wild music.
But he was just really smart in school and stuff.
Really smart in school and did all the production. And the music is, what was it? Crunk.
Yep.
But it was super. The beats were insane, and the energy was insane.
Yeah, like it give you a heart attack.
Yeah, it gives you a heart attack.
But yeah, there was a challenge where they had to do like some something promo for steaks.
Yeah,
and like Gary Busey just made Lil Jon like put paper tissue in boxes, And then, like Lil Jon's like, because Gary Busey's like, Lil Jon, he had to put the paper in the box, and he did a really good job. And Lil Jon's like, he's like, putting paper in the damn box? You a grown ass man. You supposed to be able to do that yourself. But like the way it's said, and then like even cut to Trump being like, what the fuck is going? Like it was so funny, but now I can't enjoy it.
Yeah.
Gary Busey was, dude, he was so crazy. Mark McGrath at one point's like, yeah, man, like I get high, but Gary's on some other shit.
Yeah, he's on that. That's the only thing. It's like even laughing at Cod, like there is so much mental health thing, but Gary Busey was that way even in DC Cab days.
Yeah, even before the motorcycle crash, he was insane.
He was insane.
DC Cab is one of like the most confusing movies I've ever seen. In what sense? It's so crazy, dude.
I forget what the plot. I just remember all the. Yeah, it's just cabbies hanging out in D.C.
Wasn't Bill Maher in that? That was like his first
Bill
movie
Maher's
role,
in
right?
it. Mr. T's in it. There's a lot of cool people. I think Charlie Barnett is in it.
Oh yeah.
Who's this famous stand-up comedian from the early '80s? And then
I saw it a few years ago.
Yeah,
for the first time.
Did it still hold up or not?
No, not
at all.
Pretty sure we gave it Rotten on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah. What holds up like from the '70s and '80s?
From the '70s and '80s,
Star Wars.
Of course, yeah. Star Wars,
Godfather,
Star Wars, Jaws, Apocalypse Now. I'm trying to think. I mean, those are great filmmakers, though.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Shining is still incredible.
It is.
I just love Stephen King and his reasoning for hating the movie, which is like Jack Torrance is supposed to slowly go crazy, but Jack Nicholson is always crazy. So you say there's no slow build.
It's only 90 minutes, man. It's shot so well, and that was that guy
Stanley Kubrick.
Kubrick, who's insane.
Yeah, he drove. Wasn't it Molly Shelley or Melly Shirley? He drove her crazy.
On The Shining.
Yeah, she talked about how like she never recovered from making that movie. Like, and then Jack Nicholson and Angelica Houston, they were dating and they had a tumultuous relationship, and so Jack Nicholson was miserable. Like that production was just insane. Yeah,
I love that director's how it looks and the feel of those films, but I have heard he's insane and that. I guess it was Harvey Keitel was in that last. What was the one with Tom Cruise? Eyes Wide Shut.
Oh yeah.
And so he was in a scene with Kubrick, and Kubrick made him just like, okay, do it over, do it again. Okay, walk in again, and Harvey Keitel just walked off set. It's like I'm too old for this shit. It just walked.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just when you're dealing with a perfectionist, it could be insane sometimes.
Yeah, it's perfectionism, but also at what cost? You know what I mean? Like, I think that's something that like Robert Downey Jr. said about David Fincher's process, where it's like, okay, I get you want to like us to do it so many times. It's just so natural, but at what point is it diluting the scene?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, because Social Network, I believe David Fincher had Jesse Eisenberg and Rooney Mara do that 100 times.
Wow.
And that's like a 10-page scene.
Yeah, it's intense.
Like and if you read a Sorkin script, that's a lot in 10 pages. The way he writes, he packs a lot in the page.
Yeah, you're doing monologue after monologue. Yeah. How much acting do you do, and how much what's a lot of dialogue? Like I've done some acting, but I'm confident with a scene. Give me 7 lines, 10 lines. But some of these major actors, they're getting like 35 pages of dialogue, like have this done by tomorrow, next day. Is that what they're doing?
I mean, I've heard horror stories of people getting pages like a few hours before shoot.
Yes.
And stuff like that, depending on your acting. Depending on your ability to memorize lines and what your process is. That can be incredibly daunting. Like I don't do too much acting. I've just been doing background the past few months.
You've been writing and doing background?
Yeah, just to like, pay some bills.
And
things like that. I've never, when I was younger, I wanted to be an actor, but like since I've gotten, past my 30, into my 30s, I'm like, I'm good with writing and producing and directing because that's actually, I've been denying it a long time because I've been in the corporate world, like with job security and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course.
But now my wife is really pushing me. She's like, you love producing and directing? Like, do that. Find ways to do that. And so, I don't know. Did I answer your question? I forgot.
Yeah, no, 100%.
My edible clearly is kicked in.
No, I think
right now.
good that you had a nice. We're at the Cannabis Coffee Hour. We're at 45 minutes. So we're in the right now. We're dancing in the end zone, and I know you have a life, and but you're 100% right. Like as a stand-up, I would say my comedy tree kind of like I've learned everything from stand-up and being a English major writing person, but then that kind of lended it after I kind of understood kind of that process. I could put it towards acting, and I could put it towards producing a podcast or producing a short film. Like each of these things I'm learning as I go along. But
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate growth mindsets.
Yeah.
I always like want to applaud someone who has that, because I meet so many young people, so many people like my age and older who like don't want to know anything new, who don't care. They're like, I'm in my bubble.
Yeah,
I know what I know.
Yeah.
Leave me alone. Like, I don't care about that. I don't want to go to that country. I don't want to do that thing. Like, it's terrifying. So I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. I like being appreciated, and I like learning new things. No, the older I get, I'll say the older I get, the more I don't know. And the more I'm like, and that's actually lent itself into being more compassionate for people that I don't understand.
Where were you born?
What's that?
Or raised? Were you born and raised again?
D.C. and then Virginia.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Interesting. Because you have like very Midwest, like, sensibilities, and like,
and
that's
Californians like me too. No, I'm not a New Yorker, and I've been here since
that's
2005.
how we feel. Like, we're very
I'm
much
not
like,
a New Yorker. I'm
hey,
like a DC. At the end of the day, I always say is like I'm just like a Southern Christian stoner that wants to get along and just play guitar in the field. And I've been learning to play guitar more to get off the internet. That's been my tactile things.
Yeah.
Are you heavy online? I know you have a podcast. You seem heavy online.
I have to be right now, just like for like exposure and like, selling tickets and things like that.
Yeah, that's a part of the gig.
But it's tough to have to do that, and then you're a full-time writer. Like it's just different mindsets, and so I've been trying to still figure out that balance. But yeah, I have to right now because I have the New York Comedy Festival show coming up. And then,
let's plug that.
Yeah.
We forgot.
Drunk Black History on Friday, November 8th. We talk about black historical figures and events that haven't got their mainstream due. It's on Friday, November 8th at Littlefield in Brooklyn, New York. You can get tickets at drunkblackhistory.com. And so I have to promote that. And then I have my movie review podcast, Media Popcorn. All this information is available on my website, FrodoBlackens.com. And it's been tough though. Balancing all that. Like I hate being online because politics and just even film Twitter is getting like really like divisive lately, so it's been a lot.
It's a lot, and it's on the mental health. Like that I meditated for 20 minutes before this podcast. Like meditation has gotten so mainstream as well as therapy, but I think it's good because of all the technology is coming at us. Like, but I'm not one of those doom and gloom guys. I like all this stuff. I like being able to produce my own podcast. I like to be able to shoot stuff on a low budget and cut it all myself and put it out there and figure it out. It's just figuring out the money.
Exactly.
But everybody's trying to figure that out, so I'll get there eventually.
Yeah, well, you have to. I mean, it's America, so and it's also New York.
Yeah.
New York that's the thing is like if you really can survive here and take care of yourself, like you can do it anywhere.
Yeah. It's always on, and it's always changing, and I take it for granted. I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. What's going on? Yeah. But I did a show last night. I produced a podcast. I got little side gigs. I'm doing that. I'm doing this.
Exactly.
And you gotta just do it. Yeah. Because everybody else is.
If you have the hustle mentality and survival instincts, you can make it here.
You can make it here, and like we said, there is major films here, major television shows, and I get to run into people like you that are doing it, that are actually writing reviews for Rotten Tomatoes and podcasting and producing great stand-up, Drunk History, Drunk Black History. Do you know what you guys are going to tackle? Or
we usually keep that under wraps.
Yeah.
Show, but we do have a great roster of guests. We got Rel Battle from Peacock's Killing It.
Yes.
Jabuki Young White from Max's Rap Shit. And then Eva Evans from Netflix's A Joke. So we got some great comedians on. And some few surprise guests we're working on. So it's going to be good.
That's going to be amazing.
A lot of fun. DrunkBlackHistory.com.
Yes. Check out that. It's a live show. Yes. And it's awesome.
There's a podcast too, but it's monthly. But I do a podcast as well.
Okay. Look that up. And you started at the Creek in the Cave over
I
here
did.
in the LIC.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yep. That was the first show.
That was the first show, and then you were saying that you've been performing in Austin.
Yeah.
You're going back to South by Southwest.
Hopefully.
That's
I
in March, right?
Yeah, I have to submit our the applications for our podcast team.
Okay.
And stuff like, because now we go as like a group, which was really dope. Like we went earlier this year, rented a whole Airbnb house, and like,
sick.
yeah, we were able to do a bunch of different stuff, divide and conquer, like with screenings and interviews. So it was dope.
Who was the biggest musical guest you ran into at the last South by Southwest?
Musical guests?
Yeah, I remember going to South by. I'll tell you, I got
Yeah.
off the plane, and the dude that was coming on the plane, like he just left South by Southwest, and I was coming on, Ghostface Killer.
Oh, wow.
Ghostface Killer was coming
Nice.
off the plane and coming off the Austin plane. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is about to be lit.
Well, remember, it's the music festival is a different time than the film festival.
Film festival. You're right. I went
Yes.
down for the music
Yeah,
festival.
so we were there. We were there for the film and comedy festival.
So that's
And
more
so-
of that's more of a comedy and
Yeah.
film vibe.
So I run-
it's all actors and stuff.
2 years in a row.
McConaughey.
Yeah, 2 years in a row, I've run into Ben McKenzie, who's Ryan Atwood on the OC.
Yes.
And I'm always like, OC, baby. Like, because I always think it's funny, like, I think it's like hilarious. I don't know if they like think this themselves, if like because I met Joshua Jackson, and I was also like, Dawson's Creek, man. Like, these white dudes who did these like WB shows, and then like a black guy out of nowhere just comes up and be like, yo, Dawson's Creek. Or like, I wonder if they just chuckle and be like, oh shit, we have black fans. You know, I think it's hilarious. But,
Because
yeah,
those shows were kind of soap opera.
they were huge, but they were
They're-
popular as hell.
But you would watch them in the afternoon and kind of follow the
Yeah, yeah.
arc and shit.
You know, Dawson's Creek I really identify with because it's starred a movie nerd who loves Spielberg
Oh wow.
and was very like mopey, like he was like a real life Doug.
Yeah, yeah,
and I love Doug, so I'm like, oh, this is like my show. And also written by Kevin Williamson, who was like the most influential screenwriter for me. So yeah, it's like so many connections.
So many connections. Are you going to see a movie this weekend?
Not this weekend because it's the wife's birthday weekend.
Gotcha.
But I still have to see Megalopolis,
Yes.
Joker 2, which neither one of those I'm excited about. And I think I have a screening coming up this week though for something.
Do you get sent the screeners or do you go to a theater?
Sometimes
to
I get
watch
sent
it?
screeners, but like for theatrical stuff, I get sent like dates for screenings in the city and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. What's that good art house? What's the good art house
I
movie
mean,
theater these days? ArcLight? No, that's in L.A.
yeah, I mean Angelica, I guess.
That's the one I was
But their popcorn is But
Yeah.
a lot of the screenings are at like AMC. Usually they're at AMC or they're like in screening rooms at like Paramount or Warner Brothers and stuff like that.
Oh,
Like,
they
I recently
have
went
their
to-
own place.
Yeah, I recently went to a screening for Paramount in Times Square, like the MTV, like where they have the MTV
Yes.
stuff. And
I
so
can
they
see
have like
that.
a screening room there. So that's where I saw Better Man, which is the Robbie Williams biopic, but he's like a CGI monkey. Yeah, they
Okay.
use like Weta from like Lord of the Rings and stuff like that, Planet of the Apes, to make him a monkey. Because he's like, I always felt like a performing monkey as a singer and a performer.
Yes.
And so that's what they did. So it's this like monkey as a kid throughout his life, but it's Robbie Williams. It is
And
real-
Robbie Williams music too.
Yeah, it's like done by the director of The Greatest Showman,
Yes.
that musical with Hugh Jackman, and so it's
I did see that.
it's cool. I was actually thinking about it today, but I don't know if it'll be a hit because I don't think, especially in America, people know who Robbie Williams is.
I know. He had the one music video where he takes his skin off.
off, Rock
I remember
DJ.
that. That
Yeah.
was like the hit. And he was kind of like an R&B soul English dude, right? Like it's not Jamiroquai, but it's almost like Coldplay.
Sort of, but
And,
he's huge in the UK.
He's
Like,
huge.
dude, he's like their Michael Jackson.
Yeah, he's like up there to George Michael. Like
He's bigger. If you look at like his Wikipedia, like I looked it up afterwards.
Oh, wow.
He's huge. Like
I gotta get.
it's
over
wild
that.
that he's so big in the UK,
And then nobody
and
gives
no
a
one else
fuck
knows him.
here. Yeah.
It's so wild, man.
We know a little bit about Robbie, but we don't know. But yeah, when you have the guy from Lord of the Rings doing your film, but it's a musical with CGI,
Yeah.
and everybody's leaning into musicals right now. But was that one good?
It wasn't terrible. It's really long. It's like almost 2.5 hours, and it's just weird seeing the CGI monkey do cocaine and like it alludes that like he does orgies because they're not gonna show him actually having sex, and so it's just really odd.
Really odd, but now you make me want to see it more.
It's like it's visually really interesting, but it does feel like a one-trick pony kind of.
Yeah, and a little bit. And why do I really care this much about Robbie Williams? Yeah.
Because it's just tough that no one ever reacts to like, hey, you look like a monkey.
Yeah.
You know, everyone else is human. There's no other monkeys.
Yeah. That's
you know what
a
I
little
mean?
odd.
It'd be one thing if like the boy band he was in, if they all were also monkeys, like
Yeah.
that would at least give a little pop and be like, oh, they all felt like they were, you know, but it didn't do any like thing really creative outside of like, hey, he's a CGI monkey for most of the movie.
Yeah, and then the Joker 2 is a musical, right?
From what I've heard, yeah.
And people hate it. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, everyone hates it. My wife.
Everybody hates it.
I wasn't the biggest fan of the first one, but
Me neither.
My wife loved the first one. She saw
I
opening
could
night,
see liking it.
and she was like, "I don't know who that's for." She's like, "I don't know. It's not for people that liked the first Joker. It's not for people that didn't like it." She's like, "Our audience like hated it. Like it's really bad apparently, really bad."
Because Lady Gaga's cool. Like I always think
She would be a great Harley Quinn, I think.
yeah, and it doesn't work.
Well, I guess that she's not really in it. Like she's very underused. That's what like the common word reviews has been.
And it's a musical. I would
It's a
lean
musical,
on.
yeah.
I would lean on Lady Gaga. She's a rock star.
know,
That Super
I know.
Bowl performance, I thought was amazing. She's always been somebody that I'm like, oh, that's a high performance artist, like going hard in the paint, like what we were talking about,
Yeah.
like just going hard in the paint.
Yeah, and she's really talented. I mean, A Star Is Born.
She's a
like,
good actress. Yeah,
It's a hard movie to watch, but that's low key like one of the best movies of the past 20 years. Like Bradley Cooper, like I didn't know he was. And
I
maybe
haven't
I'm
seen
upset.
it, but I wouldn't
You
mind
haven't
putting
seen it.
Yeah, I would put it
That would
on
make
and
you
watch
so
it with you
upset.
right now.
It'll make you so.
Yeah,
because like
I'm
you
just
can't-
busy. I'm a dad. I'm running
Dude,
hard.
you're like
yeah.
you cannot look like this. You can't be gorgeous like this and be this talented. He
Yeah.
wrote, directed, starred in, and he sang in it.
But
and
it's
played
like a
guitar.
movie for the Rose, right? It's the original '70s Bette Midler story.
It's a remake of that. Yeah.
Yes, that's
And so
when I
it's,
first heard it. I was like, okay,
And
I know what
it's
he's
just
doing.
as dark. It's
Yeah.
just sad. It's a sad movie.
a
But
sad movie.
he and Sam Elliott's incredible in it.
Oh wow,
Sam Elliott, like he got nominated.
is that his last film, or is he still alive?
No, Sam Elliott's still out here.
He's still out here.
He's still out here,
He's
bro.
still slinging guns.
Still got that barbecue sauce voice, man.
Yeah, you just say, why not put him in your movie? You're
Oh,
gonna want to put him in. Yeah,
I love like Sam Elliott with great dialogue. Like he was on Justified for a season or two,
yes.
and like him and Elmer Leroy dialogue is just butter, baby. It's amazing.
It's amazing. Some people just have that voice and presence that you're like,
Yep.
thank you.
Yeah. It's like a lot of people are like, you know, I don't even think they're complaining for real. I think it's all bots about Denzel and Gladiator 2. And I'm like, it's Denzel in ancient Rome. Like, it's going to be amazing.
I want to see that. That's out right now?
No, it's coming out. But like,
Yeah.
Denzel's like, he's like the manipulator behind the scenes and shit.
Yeah.
And he's in like all the Roman like garb and stuff. And it's like, well, he just said recently he's probably retiring soon.
Yeah, this
So
is
then
going
why-
to be his last hurrah.
Yeah, why not see him in all his glory in a Ridley Scott movie? Hopefully, it's a good Ridley Scott movie because the recent ones have been rough. But
What was his big claim to fame, Ridley Scott? He had the Tremor?
well, yeah, Alien,
Alien. Yeah.
Alien.
And 300?
No, that's Zack Snyder.
Okay, gotcha.
But he had an Alien. He had The Martian was his last really, really good movie. Recently, he's done like House of Gucci.
Yes.
The Last Duel.
I didn't mind House of Gucci.
Napoleon was garbage.
Yeah, I didn't see
It was
Napoleon.
really bad.
Oh wow. There's so much good stuff out there,
Yes.
man.
Yeah, there's a lot.
I want to run home and watch, but I still have on DVD the films I have is Escape from New York,
Okay.
which is the original Conan. I got on DVD.
Kurt Russell.
Yeah, Kurt Russell, and Kurt Russell's amazing in that film.
Mm.
And then what's the other one that I always love putting on? I'll watch, and then somebody left it on a thing, but I do have a good Dazed and Confused on DVD.
Okay.
And you don't see Dazed and Confused on streaming networks. Like those three films.
It was
I
on
don't
Netflix, I think, recently.
Really?
Or maybe Peacock. There's a lot of Linklater stuff on Peacock. But I remember seeing Dazed and Confused on Netflix not too long ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because like when you like click by the movies and they show like screenshots,
Yeah.
and it's always fucking Matthew McConaughey's dumbass face in that car.
Yeah.
You know,
I
so-
think, yeah.
It's an iconic shot, so it's
Yeah.
like you can't.
Uh,
I love people like Linklater, like in Apatow, and I want to be the person that kind of identifies like I want to be the Black John Hughes. Like I want to identify really talented young talent and like give them their starting platform, like where they like it's like this is the new group.
yeah.
People that are going to be like rock stars in the
Yeah.
future. You know, like it's like whoever the casting director is for Euphoria. I want to hire them for all my projects.
To do the casting. Yeah, putting together a project is a lot like putting together a band and putting together a cast, because it's like just different people have different energies, and especially if you write characters, it's like, oh, if I could get a good actor to play this funky dude that I wrote, like it's gonna come off really good.
Yeah. And I feel like it's wild because my wife is like, you have all experience doing this stuff. Like when I was running teams like for coding boot camps and things like that, I had to hire, train. So I'm building my teams of 10 plus people. And she's like, you know how to do that. And I was like, you know how to handle conflict within them and shit?
Yeah, yeah. And
like, because you have one rock star.
Yeah. And no, the business of show business, like you said, and I'm in the same thing. Like, it's a lot of it's like a sales mindset, a corporate mindset.
Yep.
Like, to make a film, like, people like, oh, whatever, E.T. It's like, no, it's like, oh, no. It's like you got a corporation going on, you got a house of artists going on, you got a house of accountants going on.
And think about how many people, you want to talk about E.T., think about Spielberg screening the first cut of that, and the studio were probably like, what the fuck are we going to do? Because it's a very dark movie. Yes. It's a classic, and like there's a lot of classic like scenes that like families like always, oh, but like if you watch that movie from the beginning to end, it's incredibly dark and harrowing.
Yeah. Yeah, he's lost. He's out there.
And he's getting sick, and they have the mask suits on and shit. And, and quarantine the house. It's scary, man.
Super. I remember seeing that. I saw it in Michigan. I remember seeing that thing. Yeah.
Did you see it at the Michigan Theater?
I saw it in the Lansing Mall, and this is crazy. Oh, wow. It was right after. I mean, I don't mean to get sad, but my dad passed away in a car accident. So,
I'm sorry.
And then thank you. I'm 50, but thank you. Still. But I remember. But my mom left me at the old folks' home. I was at the old folks' home for like 4 days with my grandmother, who was like on oxygen.
Yeah.
And then but they were cool. I liked them. And it was kind of, she gave me all this like good cereal and gave me money to go to the mall.
Okay.
And I could go play video games. So I kind of liked it. I kind of liked hanging. And my grandfather used to watch Barney Miller, which is so dope.
Yeah.
And I used to watch it with him. But then I remember going to see E.T. by myself. And it was all about your dad and like these super heavy issues. And I remember processing it, like crying in the movie theater by myself, watching E.T. But I loved it. I thought it was so dope at the same time. But it's just wild how movies, how powerful they are, especially classic ones.
When I had to move to LA to be in the Universal Writers Program, I had to be away from my wife for a few months because she couldn't come with me the first summer because she was getting a surgery in the fall, and so she had to go to all these tests in New York and stuff. So I'm in LA by myself. I don't know anyone really. Like I know a few comedians,
but even when you know people,
and I had no idea how lonely LA can be because everything's so far away from each other, right?
Yeah.
And it was hard. The first month and a half were really hard. And I went to go see Banshees at Inisherin with Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's all about loneliness. Yeah. It's all about being lonely and feeling like no one wants you around and things like that. Yeah. And I was emotional as hell during that screening.
Yeah,
I was broken.
Yeah.
Because there's some genuinely really sad characters that they're there's a quote that Barry Keoghan's character says it's the sad, most heartbreaking moment I've seen in cinema in a long time. He's like, well, there goes that dream. And it's just, I was just like in tears watching this thing.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a rough month and a half.
Yeah. Especially when you're in the theater, it gets dark and you're all alone. It's just like it takes over your consciousness.
And you watch a movie alone, yeah.
Yeah, watch it alone and processing. But we'll finish up with Warriors. They're coming out. Did you hear about this? Lin-Manuel coming out
that's wild.
And doing the whole musical. That's why I was kind of trying to link in.
Is he officially doing the musical, or is he? I heard he was experimenting with some songs that he's thinking about making. When he was first doing Hamilton, he was trying out some songs and stuff like that. See, are people liking this? But if he's doing a full musical, that's interesting.
It's interesting. Yeah. I don't know if what I heard was it kind of was to do the music of the album. So I guess it's like what you're saying.
Interesting.
He's probably making a few rap songs as the baseball fury and a couple rhymes for this.
The more I thought about it, it could work. Given just the story with the gang battles and you just do you just do rap battles instead of physical battles. I can see that.
Yeah, I could totally see that. And I could see it on stage being a lot of fun. If I don't know what he would do with, I could see that the Warriors on Broadway would be fun.
Yeah.
Remaking the movie is like,
I've
but doing tunes
Yeah.
might not be bad.
I always brainstorm movies in my head, and like Hollywood all day are about IP.
Yes.
And so there was a period where I was like, when I was out in LA, I was thinking about what my pitch would be for a Warriors reboot, and I just couldn't think of anything that's better than the original.
I know.
It's just like it's going to be the same story.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be no new spin on it. There's no real. The only thing you could do is do a gender swap.
Yeah.
That's the only thing you could do that would make it remotely interesting. But you're never going to capture the grittiness and insanity that is the 70s Warriors. It was so out of control. And you can't get away with those outfits again.
No, it's more about the
capsule.
tone. It's not the story. The Warriors isn't like a deep movie by any means. It's more about the tone.
Yeah.
And how it's shot, and how New York looks, and the characters, and
you're never gonna get Coney Island like that. Like
never gonna get Coney
Island. It's so cinematic
and
the way
gangs
they do it.
were riding the trains like that.
And then you're just gonna have imitations of those actors.
Yeah.
Warrior, that's the one thing I hate about Alien Romulus. Did you see that?
No, but they use that actor, or I do know from that says that famous. Line.
It's fantastic until they start doing these really over the top homages to the originals. There's someone who says for no reason, "Get away from her, you bitch," and I'm like, that's so unnecessary. You were doing your own original thing with this IP,
yes,
and now you had to do this forced callback that you wouldn't understand if you were brand new to this franchise and just watching this movie. You'd be like, why are some people cheering at this?
Oh wow,
it was so unnecessary.
So unnecessary. Now we could have left on that, but one thing, because I know you know about it. Explain what IP is. It's intellectual
property,
and I've been trying to get my brain around it. So what it is okay, I come up with a superhero, Frogman.
Yep.
All right, and I come up with Frog Universe, and then I fill out some paperwork
Yep,
that says I have the copyright for Frogman.
Yeah, and then they do investigations and make sure that's legit, and then if so, then you own that intellectual property.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
then Marvel may buy it from you.
It's possible, yeah. I mean, and then there's public domain stuff. I learned a lot about this with working at the studio and stuff like that, because they were like, all right, look at this list of public domain things and write some few pitches, and then they were like, look at this Universal Pictures IP intellectual property. So that's characters that they had rights to or stories that they had rights to, and be like, what would be a pitch for a remake or a sequel or requel now is what they call it.
Wow.
To some of this stuff, and it was interesting.
Now, what studio were you working?
I was at Universal.
At Universal, and was this you got picked up as a writer for a television show, or you?
No. So they have a features program where basically you would, if you got selected, you would write, you would pitch ideas, and then you would have an idea chosen for you to write a feature for the studio, and you get studio notes, and you worked with a production company. And so I was picked out of thousands of applicants. It was me and 5 other people, and we basically got to write for the studio for a year.
And so they just they gave you a salary for a year, or they gave you a grant?
They gave us a salary.
Salary.
Yeah.
So you just got a year, and then you learned how to pitch and write, and there's a high level.
Yeah, I learned a lot about the industry. I do wish that there had been a little bit more practice with stuff like pitching and things like that, but I mean, the network I have now is insane.
Yeah.
The contacts I have the contacts I have are, I had a manager for a little bit, and then I realized they had fewer contacts than I did. And I was kind of like, what is this? Because I was new to getting reps and stuff. And I'm like, I feel like this should be better.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting when you learn about the business, and you learn what people should be doing for you, especially if they're getting a cut.
Yes.
It's show business when you're actually actively in it is a whole different ballgame than knowing about show business from a distance, not actually being a part of it.
There is a corporate energy to it, but it does work. I mean, you buy houses and raise a family, and that's why it's that official. And I like those gigs. Yeah, those are great. Brandon, thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
It's not one of those big corporate gigs, but it's the Cannabis Coffee Hour, and we'll try to get the word out about your show.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Drum Black History, Friday, November 8th at Littlefield in Brooklyn. Hope to see y'all there.
Hope to see y'all there. Yeah, Brandon Collins.
Thank you.
Yeah, peace and love. We're done.